Okay, good Erev Shabbos to everybody. Uh, Today's daf is Tzadik Beis. We're on Tzadik Aleph Amid Beis. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav says Rav Dikla Detoyin Kaba, a palm tree that has a kav of tamarim on it. Asa limiktsatse. It's asa to cut it down. It's asa to cut it down. Okay. Mesve kamiye bezayis katsu. How much on an olive tree that you can't cut it down? It says roiv. It's a quarter of a kav. So why one here you say a kav and here you say a quarter? So the Gemara is making a distinction between dates and olives. Shiny zaysim dechashivi. They're different because they're chashiv. Amram Chanina like shachiv shivchas bri. Rav Chanina says his son shivchas, or there's another place shikchas bri. The cuts nasa b'leismana. He cut down a fig tree before its time, and he died before his time. However, if the wood of the tree, even if it's a fruit-bearing tree, is necessary for the bark, for the wood, mutter, it's permitted to cut down. Rock eights. Okay, so the pasuk. What does the pasuk say? This is Rock eights. This you're sieging a city. Bnei Yisrael is sieging a city. Rock eights asher teida kilei eitz ma'ichelhu. Only that you know that it's not a fruit bearing tree. Who is that you can cut down? The karasa you should cut it down. Ubanisa mitzor, and you build a siege, a bridge with that. Alair asher hi oisa imach milchama ad ready to subdue the city. So it's mashma. You know, guys, when you say Bal Tashkes, what do you think about? Throwing out food. And the source about Tashkes is cutting down fruit-bearing trees. So you're sieging a city, and you have a choice. You need the wood to build this. They would build these, I guess, ladders or different things to go ahead and go over the walls, or I don't know what else they did with it. But you shouldn't cut down a fruit-bearing tree. However, if it's modded, you need them. You can use this. So you can use this wood. The wood is it's good. It's a good wood. Good wood. You could use it. Let's say even olive wood. We said olive wood is used for many different things. I know we have them in the house. All these things are to throw. So you go ahead and you use this wood. Then you'll be able to go ahead. You'll be able to go ahead right and do that. You'll be able to go ahead right and use it. Ravina, Tanyanami Hachi Rak Eitz Asher Teida. The pasuk says a tree that you know. That refers to a fruit-bearing tree. But it's a tree that's not fruit-bearing. It's a non-fruit-bearing tree. And now you just told me you can cut down any tree, right? So right? Why? Once you tell me that if it's necessary you can cut down any tree, then why are you mentioning both trees? It says that it's giving a pecking order. First, you should cut down a non-fruit-bearing tree. And Yachal Afil Mula B'Damim, that you should not cut down a tree that's a fruit-bearing tree, Tamalei Marak, that, in other words, here's the pecking order. You cut down a fruit-bearing tree, and non-fruit-bearing, a srak, ilan srak, and not cut down a fruit tree. So I might think you can't cut down a fruit tree at all. Kamashma Nawat, if you need the damim, if it's Mechus Damim, is you need the wood, then you could cut it down. Shmuel Aisile Arise Tamre, Shmuel's, his sharecropper, he bought him dates. He was able to taste, in the dates, he was able to taste wine. In other words, obviously, it was speaking where there's no shail of kalayim, it was a distance away, but the nutrients of the flavor of the gefen was making its way into his dates. So yes, my high. So Amalei, Bene Gufne Kaimi, this tree is among the vines. So Amar Shmuel said, Makashe Bechamra Kulahai. It's amazing that it can ruin wine. In other words, the dates are ruining the wine. Go ahead and bring their roots. You should go ahead and bring the roots of the palm trees that they shouldn't go ahead and mess up the wine. Rav Chis the Chazi Tali Beikofni. Rav Chis saw he saw these little palm trees. They're called saplings, and they were among the vines. So Amalei Larisa told us Shir Kappa Akrinu, get rid of them. Gufne Koni Dikla, because grapes are much more expensive, so you can sell grapes, and buy palm trees. However, particularly like Konegufni, you can't sell palm trees and buy wine and buy vines. So wines are much superior. So this is the shaila about Tashkis, right? A little bit about Tashkis. It's very, very, it's a big inyan. There's a Sefer Chasidim, the Tzavar in the Sefer Chasidim. Sruli Bonsi mentioned in Mem, hey, I looked at the Tzavar, it's Nun Gimel. And it says that it's asa to cut down. Let me give you the Lashon exactly. Let me give you the. So he says, Elon ha'oisa Paris, this is his Sava, the famous Sava, right? You should marry a woman with the same name as your mother. You're familiar with, some of them are very familiar with. Elon ha'oisa Paris, ein licht an Elon that goes ahead and makes Paris, you shouldn't cut it down. That's what he says. So the Welt erst on the Sefer Chasidim, the Welt erst on the Sefer Chasidim, it's a Mefurisha din in the Torah. In other words, what is he telling me? It's halacha and Shulchan Aruch. You can't cut down a fruit-bearing tree. We just saw you can't. What's he telling me? And in fact, would Shichvas go ahead, Wad, and be over the Issa? Reb Chanina has had a son, Shichvas, you go cut down a fruit-bearing tree. So there is a Chuvas Yaivitz. It's Ayin Vav. And he says that there's two inyanim. There is the inyan of the Isser, and then there's the din of Sakana. We spoke about, guys, Achilas Maichalas Isuris, Timtam Alev, right? We spoke about how when you eat something, it's Metamtem the Lev, correct? We said that we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it that tzaddikim would not even eat Maichalas Isuris. We saw the Gemara in Gittin, that he almost fed every minachai, had to have such a havamina. We saw Taisa said that the kind of the Indian midi da'achila, that you're not going to ingest something. That again, it's huge Torah, but the bottom line is that if you eat an isser, it's betamtem delev, it causes what's we call timtum alev, tumah, it'll be destroyed, whatever it is. So it seems that according to the Shach and Taz in Shulchan Aruch, we saw this in Pei Aleph, says that even pikuach nefesh. In other words, there is a mitzias in the fruit in food that's maichalas yisuris that has nothing to do. Again, there are chilukei deis. I want to buttress my point. Is that there's a deya that even pikuach nefesh had a heter to eat it doesn't make a difference. If you eat it, in other words, it's similar to eating poison. You can have a heter to eat it, but if you're going to die, you're going to die. You know, that's the bottom line. Similarly, cutting down a fruit-bearing tree carries with it, even though there's a heter, carries with it a sakana. I'm telling that. This a concept of sakana. Ken Zayin, that's the reason, says the Yavitz, that why Shichvas died. Because good, he had a heter to cut down the tree, but nonetheless he died. Why? Because sakana. So we've seen over the years weird things. Do you remember when Landaus, they were building Landaus, and across the street they had a temporary tent, and in the middle there was a tree? I have written down over here on the side of my Gemara that there was a cherry tree that was in the Beis Medrash square, and they didn't cut it down. Because this concept of cutting down, and we all know this, Bal Tashchis, right? We all know cutting down a fruit-bearing tree is an awful, awful thing. I bought my house in Inwood. Right in the middle of the backyard, there was this tree. And I said, I'm not buying the house. And they said, why not? I said, I can't deal with this tree. They cut down the tree. Because I knew the tree was mamish in the way of the backyard. Not that I'm going to ever live there, I don't know. But the bottom line is, if I would ever live there, I need a fruit-bearing tree right there. It was staring everything. So we know this. So says Rev Reuven Margolis, says that's what the Sefer Chasidim was saying. He wasn't speaking about the etzem din. He's speaking about when the din is you could cut it down. When there was a reason for cutting it down, right? Nonetheless, there's the sakana of cutting it down. And that's what Rabbi Yehuda was telling you. Do not cut it down because of the innate sakana. That's it. And that's what the Yavitz is saying. And that's why people are so makban on fruit-bearing trees, even if there's a heta. Even if there's a heta. Okay? So that would be a little bit about that. Says the Mishnah. Okay, Hashem is so good here, right? We got Agadata today. This is all it's Agadata today. That's why I thought I was going to have to say later on, Baruch Hashem. So now, Afa Pishu Noisin Law. Now this is going back to when you go ahead and you embarrass somebody. You embarrass somebody. Even after, or you damage somebody, even if you're given the monetary compensation, you don't get mechila until you go ahead and ask him. Shneimar, Viata, Hashem ish. And this is Gemara. We're going to get into this. This is Avram Avinu when Avimelech went ahead and took his wife, took Sarah, Perichaf and Bereshis, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, return him. How do you know that if you're not Michael, you're an Achsar? Why? So you see Avram's reaction to returning of Sarah. Shnemar, by Yispal Avram El Elokim, Avram davened to Hashem, right? He davened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Vayirpo Elokim es Avimelech, and Hashem cured Avimelech and the whole base. Like, okay, so then we're going to spend the rest. We're going to spend some time today on this inyan. Says the Mishnah, Ha'imeh. Someone says Sima es Eini. Someone says go ahead, Rod, and blind my eye, or cut es yadi, cut off my hand. Shav es ragli, break my leg, and the guy obliged. Chayev, the one who hit him is chayev. Almanas lifter. If he adds on the condition, I'll be parter. Chayev, he's still chayev. Again, the Gemara is going to discuss all of this. Kara es ksusi, rip my clothing. Shaver es kadi, break my barrel. Chayev, the one who does this chayev. Almanas lifter, then he'll be parter. Again, the Gemara will discuss this. Asa came leish ploini almanas lifter. He says to go ahead and rip so and so's clothing or destroy his barrel. Almanas lifter chayev because it doesn't make a difference whether he tells him to harm him or his property. The person might is going to be chayiv. Okay, turn Rabbanan. Kol elu she'amru demei boishtoi. All that we said, Rashi says, giving the selah, the 100, the 200, the 400, the boishes. Avol tsaroi, his tsar, right? The tsar. There's tsar also associated with boishes, right? Not only limited to boishes, but tsar, even that. But you're causing him. Rashi says, look at guys Rashi. We're not speaking about physical tsar. Look at Rashi. It says Rashi, Aval tsar shedoyig al boishtoi. He goes ahead and he's worried about his embarrassment. Eina nimchaloi. Think about it. Some person's embarrassed. I can't show my face again, right? It doesn't end there. The embarrassment doesn't go ahead right and end there, right? It continues on. The embarrassment continues on. It doesn't end there. 1 second. Okay, but so the tsar caused by the boishes, I feel heavy called Elei Nevoya Shaboilam. Even you bring the rams of Nevoyas, which are the best rams in the world, very, very fat rams. You're not going to get mechila until what? In Shemayim until you go ahead and you ask mechila from the victim. Shneimar Hoshe Beishas Ish says HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Avimelech, return the Eishes Ish, ki navihu, he's a navi, v'yispal v'adcha, and he'll daven for you. Fred the Gemara, the Eishes navi boy adure, Eishes achele boy adure. The only reason you're returning this one to Avram is because he's what? He's a navi. But if he wasn't a navi, then what? Then you wouldn't have to return it. You return any Eishes Ish. So Amrav Shmuel Ben Achmeni, Amrav Yonason, Hashev Eishes Ish Mikol Makam. You have to return a question in Eishes Ish. With the Ka'amid Hagoykam Tzadik Taroi, he says that Avimelech answered HaKadosh Baruch Hu when he was accused. He said, "Will you even kill a righteous man?" He told me, she's my sister. He Achihu, and she said he's my brother. I'm an innocent person. So why would you go ahead, Juan, and think that I should be punished? I'm an honest. So on that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, 1 second, you should return the questions in Eishes, but be aware that Navi, he's a Navi, and he has already taught you, when a visitor comes to a city, do you ask him if you're hungry or thirsty? You ask him, oh, is that your wife? Okay, so he already taught you that, and you didn't, and you right away you took her. You didn't ask Avram about achila. Mikan leven noyach shenerag shahayal lamad. A ben noyach, he should have learned after he's been taught something, and if he doesn't learn, he's right to be killed. So Avram had taught everyone this, that you should ask about midi the achsanya, his physical needs, his materialistic needs, and then not asking about his wife, and you did. It's a very mud the Gemara. So what do you mean Navi who? Maybe Navi, it's got a mud Navi. We think about it. Where's the Nevuah here, right, guys? Where's the Nevuah over here? Okay, so I share with you the Torah Chaim. It's on the black on the whiteboard. Navi who? Ukfarlim beit achsnoi shebalair. Tema. The Malchutzrich Lemema Shu Navi. Why do you have to tell me that Avram is a Navi? Well, Idava Pashitu, it's obvious. The Labin Nevuah Talia Milsa, this has nothing to do with Nevuah. Where's the Nevuah over here? Simply go ahead, give her back. It's your wife. He's a Navi. He's a teacher. He taught you. What do you mean Navi? Void. The Ibn Nevuah Talia, if this depends upon Nevuah, how is Avimelech supposed to know about it? And Cain, Avimelech royal Einish. Avimelech is not royal Einish. Kivin the Lav Navi, since he's not a Navi. He had Nevuah, but he's not a Navi. He should have learned and he didn't. Who should he learn from, Davizeh? Who should he have learned from? He already taught you this. You already learned this. The limed lacher mashma. Kedisa perikoy baitkim kol shnai stuff. So Zakai kuf chav shana havi mem shana lamad mem shana limed. 40 years he learned and 40 years he taught. V'nir lefarish. The Navi Ikri Hamashmiya La'am Divrei Musa B'Teichacha. A Navi is not, when we say a prophet, right? Really, what a Navi is someone who gives over the words of Hashem, Musar and rebuke. The precious Rashi Zal. Gabi Aaron Achicha, Ye Nivi Echa, Shekalosh Nevuah Adam HaMachris. Talks about a person who pronounces something. Aaron will be your Navi. Why does Hashem tell Moshe? Moshe says, I can't speak well. So what does Aaron say? Aaron will be your Navi. Aaron will be your mouthpiece. So you see that a Nevuah is not limited to what? To prophecy, telling the future, but it's using your lips to go ahead and teach others. And usually he tells over the words that of Techacha that Hashem wants transmitted. Who Migazeras, and what's the shirish of the word? Nivsvasayim, guys, the uttering of the lips. Navi. Nivsvasayim. The Avram, I'll get back to this in a second. The Avram Kol Yomav Hoyedarkei Lashmiya L'Chol Olam Divrei Musa. Avram was constantly teaching others the ways of Hashem, the Derech Eretz, and the midas that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted you to. Avram was he was the Amud Shaloylam in the lashon of the Rambam in Hilchas Avodah Zarah, Perek Aleph, right? He was the Amud Shaloylam. He was the Amid of the world. He went ahead. He not just sit back. He influenced others. He taught others about monotheism. He taught others about the Darchei Mori sacrifices, the human sacrifice. He taught others the Chesed. He taught others that he was a Navi. What was his Navi? Nivsa Sayim. He was busy teaching. K'moshenemar vayikra sham b'shem Hashem kel olam. Behind the Ka'amar the Ka'amir hagoy gam tzadik taroig lav tshuvihi. When he said that you're going to kill me, I'm innocent. Navi hu k'falimei lacherim. He already taught you. He taught you not as a Navi, not Navi prophecy, as a teacher. You should have learned after all he taught you. It's very interesting. He says that Lashon comes from this Vasayim. If in Shmuel Aleph, we have the incident where Shmuel meets up with Shaul. Shaul goes looking for donkeys, and they go to the Roya, and it says those days they called a Navi a Roya. Because at that time, the job of the Navi was not to give Teichacha to the people. The job of the Navi is be able to go ahead and help people out with their direction. You'd go to the Roya would tell you what to work on. The Roya would go ahead, he'd look into you and see you and what you are. So he went to, after Bnei Yisrael sinned, then it was necessary for the Navi to come and teach. And therefore, it's beautiful, Lashon Nifsasayim. So it's very nice, the Torah Chaim. There's nothing to do with Nevuah. He's a Navi, he's a teacher, and he taught you this, and you didn't listen, and that's why you royal lekach. That's why you call it. Very, very Torah Chaim, beautiful. So I told you, I use it all the time. It's very nice, safe, especially in Agadat. It's very, very nice. Okay. Anyway, continuing on in the parsha of just a few of the. It's Perek Chav. Now, Avimelech, they were having a problem. Avimelech and the whole day were having a problem. It says, Ki otzar atzar Hashem. Hashem had stuffed up Kol Rechem, the base Avimelech, all of literally the wombs of the house of Avimelech, al devar Sari Yeshes Avram, concerning Sari Yeshes Avram. The pasuk before it says, Vayispal Avram Elokim, Avram davens, Vayirpu Elokim es Avimelech, and Hashem cures Avimelech, Ves Ishtoi, Vamoisa Vayaledu. Okay, now, be aware that right after this, Yitzchak is born. Perich of Aleph, Hashem pakad Sarah kasher amar. Hashem remembered Sarah like he had said. Vayas Hashem Sarah kasher diber. So right after the incident with Avimelech, Sarah gets pregnant. Be aware in Pashas Toldos. What does we say? Bela told us Yitzchak and Avram that Yitzchak looked exactly like Avram because the late Sani Adar was saying that Sarah was this Abra from Avimelech. So you see that so with that in mind, Ki otzar atzar, said Hashem had stuffed up. Amar Rebbe Laza, shtei atzir salal lama. Why do you have two lashonos of Hashem had stuffed up? Achas beish, one is for the man, shechva zera, that he wasn't able to go ahead and be mitzi zera, and shtayim, and two for the woman, shechva zera, the woman was not able to be mitzi the zera that the man had put in her, but later she wasn't able to give birth. Now again, why did Hashem do this? That people should know that it was not possible that Sarah was impregnated by Avimelech, because after all, Avimelech was incapable of fathering a child because he wasn't able to be mitzi zera. B'masisan Tana, the Brisa said, Shtayim beish, which two in the man, Shech vazeru ukatanim, A, Shech vazeru, and B, he wasn't able to urinate. Shloisha beisha, Shech vazera katanim, and later she couldn't give birth. Ravina Amar, Shalish beish. What are the three in the man? Shech vazera katanim upitabas and gedolim, number two. And Arba beisha, Shech vazera v'leida katanim pitabas. So basically, people were really, really sick. They were going to die. Their bodily functions were totally off. Right, and again, why dafka this way? The Mefarshim learn out because again, a Sarah is going to get pregnant right afterwards. People should know without a shadow of a doubt that Sarah was not impregnated by Avimelech. And said Hashem had stuffed up ba'ad kol rechem. What do we say from ba'ad kol rechem? Ami debei Rabbi Yanai afilu tarnagoyles shel beis Avimelech. Even the hens in the house of Avimelech le'atilu beit sasa. They began what? They stopped. They stopped having, being able to go ahead and have children. Now, Amalei Ravo l'Rabba Bamari. Now, this is important, fellas, because we're going to digress to all places in Shas where Rava had a conversation with Rabba Bamari. So, in other words, this very often when Gemara is disjointed, it's the connecting the paper trail that connects all of it is the priests who are conversing. In this case, it's Rava to Rabbi Bamari. Anyone who davens rachmanas for his friend, who tzarich leisei dava, and he needs the same thing, who nena techila, he'll be answered first. Right? Anyone who davens for his friend, he'll be answered first. Very famous statement. People do it all the time. Girls daven for each other for shidduchim. We brought this in, fellas, in Rosh Hashanah. We said in Rosh Hashanah, we brought in Abu Draham that said on Rosh Hashanah we shouldn't ask our own needs. We should only ask for the needs for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu everyone's asking for him, and no one's worried about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu say? What? 1 second. He needs what he needs, and I need, right? But what is he doing? He's putting my needs before his needs. So what's going to happen? Then Mela HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to answer his needs. Kol Mavakesh, right? Kol Mavakesh, beautiful Abraham. Kol Mavakesh. So now, so Rabbi said to Rabbi Bamari, what's the source? So Amalei, he said, it seems Eo's friends had issues, and they were suffering, and Eo davened for them, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu went ahead and he answered Eo first. Amalei, so Rabbi said, you're bringing from the Ksuvim, at Amr Mehasam, but no, I'll give you a better source. By Yispal Avram Elokim, Hashem Davin, Avram Davin to Hashem. By Yibra Elokim es Avimelech Vasishtoi. Now, Avram needed what? Children. The same way Avimelech needed children, Avram needed children. So Kol Mavachesh Ba'ad Chaveru V'Tzorach Le'Sedavu Nen Atchila. Ukasiv Hashem pakad es Sarah kasher amar. Hashem pakad es Sarah. Hashem remembered Sarah kasher amar, right? Kasher amar Avram el Avimelech. Avram told Avimelech. Rashi on the Torah says Hashem pakad kfar. It wasn't Hashem pakad Sarah. Hashem pakad. Hashem he remembered from before, meaning before Avimelech, Sarah had already been remembered. Rashi on Chumash. Okay. Now, since we bring in the dialogue between the two, between Rava and Rabbi Amari, we're going to bring in a whole bunch more. Amalei Rabbi Amari. Mnoa milsa di ami inshi, bahade hutza lake krava. With the thorns, the crew of the cabbage gets hit. So Rashi speaks out. When you're pulling out the thorns, you're going to pull up carriage with it. In other words, the good is going to get schlepped along with the bad. The good is going to get schlepped along with the bad. So Rabbi asked Rabbi Amari, where do you know this from? So he told him, Lama Sarivu Elai, Kulchem Pushatem Binu Hashem. Why, it's why this is Yirmiyahu, and Hashem says to Yirmiyahu, why do you go ahead and fight with me? You all rebelled against me. Did Yirmiyahu rebel, guys? No, Klal Yisrael rebelled, but who's getting schlepped along? Yirmiyahu is getting schlepped along as if he rebelled. So you see that what? Yirmiyahu is like the good cabbage that got schlepped along with the thorns, Klal Yisrael. Amalei, Rava told him, At Amram Yehosam, that's your source, the Navi. But no, I have a biblical source. I have a source in the Torah proper. Ad Onami Antem Lishma Mitzvah. Right? Dasan Vavirim go out on Shabbos. They go ahead and gather what? The mun. Right? What does Hashem say? Hashem says, how long may Antem will you? Right? Meaning you're getting schlepped along in the same ballpark as Dasan Vavirim. So you see a source that what? The good gets schlepped along with the bad. So that was number 2. Number 3, Amalei Rava LeRabba Bar Mari, Ksiv u'miktsei echav lokach chemishim anashim. When they came down to Mitzrayim, the brothers, so Yosef brought in front of Paroi, he brought 5 of the brothers. Now, he didn't want them to get conscripted into the army, so he brought 5 weak ones. Now, who, man ninu chamisha, who are they? Hachiyam Rabbi Yochanan, right? Oysan shehuchblu b'shemos. Those are the ones that in Birchas Moshe and Zois HaBracha, their names were repeated. Look at Rashi, guys. Oisam shehuchel b'shem Oisam, the Birchas Moshe, Don, Zvulun, Gad, Asher, Naphtali. All of these are repeated. All of these are repeated. Good. And so now, why were they repeated? Rashi says they needed chizuk. They were weak, so they needed chizuk. So Moshe repeated the name twice. Here's your problem. Here's your problem. V'zoisli Yehuda, v'yoymar Shema Hashem Kol Yehuda. Guys, of all the brothers, when you think of strong, who do you think of? You think of Yehuda. So Yehuda's name is also repeated. It's doubled up. V'zoisli Yehuda. Hashem called Yehuda. Hashem should listen to the verse of Yehuda. So you have a problem. You're telling me the reason it's doubled up, because they were weak. Yehuda's repeated. We know Yehuda was strong. Fred the Gemara. So Amalei Hachiyam Rabbi Yochanan. Oysan Shachbul B'Shemais. Fred the Gemara. Yehuda Nami Echbulei Mechbal. Yehuda's name was also repeated. So Amalei the Milsa Yehuda Echbal. Yehuda's name was repeated for a reason. Okay, a little background. Yehuda goes ahead, and he wants to bring down to Mitzrayim Binyamin. And Yosef and Yaakov is vehemently denying it. Reuven tries, and Yehuda says, listen, Anochi Arvenu, I'll guarantee your safety, and if not, I'll be menuda from you. Well, that's it. Okay? The Gemara in Makkas brings that Chil is tzaddik, I feel about Tanai Hiba. Even if the Tanai is fulfilled, it's going to come. So Yehuda, as a result, even though he fulfilled the Tanai and he returned Binyamin, nonetheless, the Klala is Chal. Good? So with that in mind, what was the klala? The Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Rav Yonasan, Mai dichsiv yichi Ruvain val Yamus, v'hi masav mispar, that Ruvain should live and not die, and he should be what? His men should be counted, right? What does that mean? B'zayis Yehuda, and this should be Yehuda. That's what it says in Berchas Yaakov in Moshe Rabbeinu. All the 40 years that Bnei Yisrael in the Midbar. All the bones of Yehuda, they were rolling around in his aron. If you look at Rashi, fellas, Rashi says, go up above. Kol hashvatim yotzim yatzmasayim. All the shvatim, the atzmas came out of Mitzrayim. The nikbru be'eretz Yisrael. They're buried in their various chalakim. You see in Sefer Yeshua that each one of them was buried in their what? In their various chalak. Right? It says, "Nikbru be'eretz Yisrael." Shnema v'alisem es moitzai mizeh itchem mashma she'afat moitzechem helu. They took out theirs. Why they mention Yosef? Right? Why do we mention Atzmas Yosef? Because when it came to Bizi Mitzrayim and Bnei Yisrael were busy gathering the money, Moshe was busy with Atzmas Yosef. But they all came out. Her Chaim says another pshat. All the other ones were very easy to get. You know exactly where they were. Yosef was where was Yosef's bones, guys? Buried in the Nilus, right? So that was hard to get out. So it's stressed. It's different than the other ones. And that's why he's stressed. That's the Torah Chaim. Anyway, it says, so Yehuda, if you look at the next Rashi, Meguglim Ba'arin, Hoya Shilda Kayemes. His Shilda, his skeleton was not what? Intact. Umechuberes. If they Nidoi, because of the Cherim, the Kamal Yaakov, and Lo Aviyenu Elecha, if I don't return Binyamin to you, the Chetasi Lecho Kol Hayamim, the Afal Pishin is Kai Matanai, Naflan Mesech Namakis, Kil Laschacham, Afila Tanai Hiba. Right, so therefore, seemed to be that he was still, he was, as long as his shilda was not for, we're going to see he was kind of limited. He was menuda, he wasn't in Shemayim yet, fellas. He was menuda, he wasn't in Shemayim yet. So he was rolling around in there. So, Ad Sheba Moshe Bikesh Rachamim, Amalafonov, Rabbani Shalaylam. Me garam the Ruvain sheyayda. Who caused Ruvain to admit? Remember, Ruvain moved his mother's bed, Leah. It was in Bilhah's tent, and moved the bed to his tent. And as a result, right, it says Vayelech Ruvain vayishkav in Bilhah plegesh aviv. Right, Gemara in Shabbos, Kolom Ruvain chaytem l'taya. The bottom line is, it was nishkan good tzach. So, what caused Ruvain to admit what he did? It was Yehuda. Yehuda, when the mice of Tamar said, "What Sotka mimeni," right? So. Says Yaakov Avinu that what Yechi Ruvin Val Yamois Bihimas Mispar, and he's counted among the people. There's Soisli Yehuda, and this should be Yehuda. After all, the reason why Ruvain's counted is only because of Yehuda. Yehuda is the one who caused them as a result of admitting. It caused Ruvain to admit. There's Soisli Yehuda, and this should be Yehuda. So therefore, before we continue, that's the teretz to the kasha. Really, the reason it's repeated is not to go ahead and strengthen Yehuda like Rashi said, but V'zaisla Yehuda, it's for Ruvain. It's, in other words, it's a connection. Ruvain went ahead and was Maida V'zaisla Yehuda, and this should be Yehuda, but not for Yehuda's. Says the Gemara. So Miyad Shom Hashem Kol Yehuda. What does it say in Bechas Moshe? It says immediately. It says Hashem what? Hashem should listen to the voice of Yehuda. And what happened? So oil avre l'shafa. So all the bones became a skeleton again. Again, they were separate bones. They all came to one skeleton. Lehavi called maskik le'masif the rakia. And still they didn't let Yeshua into the masif to the rakia. Yehuda to masif the rakia. It says va'ala amay tiviyenu, bring him to his people. So they let him in. Lehavi yadamai kami rabbanan. He was a little lost in the source. Umeshachim matarcha by the rabbanan. He wasn't able to go ahead and be involved. So it says Yadav Ravle, his hands should go ahead and battle in Torah. So this tefillah was accepted. Still, he couldn't come to what? To say the correct halacha. The Ezim served Tiriyah, and that's the bracha. So Yehuda what is that Yehuda would be able to go ahead and be Batzliach and be ultimate source of halacha. And therefore what? That was what says Yehuda. Very geschmack. Amli Rav Mari. So this is number 4. In she Basa Anya Osla Aniyusa. A person who's poor goes after the poor. With you guys, we have a statement like the rich get richer, right? This is the opposite. This is what the poor get poorer. The rich get richer. This is the opposite. The poor get poorer. Where do you see that? So he said that none. It's a Mishnah by Bikurim. It says Ashir Mevim Bikurim Biklasei Shalzav V'Kesef. The rich people, they would bring the Bikurim in baskets of gold and silver, and Vaniyim Bisalei Nitzarim Shel Arava Klufa. And the poor people, they would bring in willow baskets, really poor baskets. Hasalim abikurim loisin lekahanim, and they both given to the kahanim. And guess what? The rich people will get back their baskets, and the poor people won't get back their baskets. The poor people won't get it back. So what do you see? That the poor get poorer. So that's where you knew it from. Amalei, that's what Rabbi Mamori said. So Amalei, at Amr Mehasam, you say from there, Vano Amina Mehacha, and I say from here, Amid Beis. It says what? B'tamei tamei yikra. So in other words, you're saying Rava seems to up Rabbi Bar Mori in every which way, meaning you're bringing from Ksuvim, I'll bring from there. In other words, he brings from the, you said from Navi, I'll bring from the Torah. Rav is always bringing it back what to the Chumash, Mamish to the Chumash. So you want to tie that what that it's Torah Shebal Peh, it's in Bikurim in a Mishnah. No, what Nebuch, guys, this guy is a Mitzorah. Is it not bad enough that he's chutz l'machner? What does he have to do? He has to stand there and do what? And call it out. I'm a Mitzorah, Tomei, stay away from me. So this is an example of the poor. The Nebuch is a bigger Nebuch, right? That's where he knows it from. This is now the fifth conversation. Amli Rabba Bar Mori. Mano Milsadam Rabbanon. Hashkem ve'echo. Get up in the morning and eat. B'kayetz v'ne'achama in the summer because of the heat. B'chor v'ne'atzina in the winter because of the cold. V'yami Yinchi. And people will say, Shitin Rahute Ratit. 60 runners are running. And you can't catch a guy who went and ate bread in the morning. How do you know that? So breakfast, this is the famous what is Hashachris. They what? They won't be hungry, they won't be thirsty, they won't be hot, and the sun won't go ahead and get them. Amalei. So at Aram V'Hasam, that's your source. Again, it's the source in Yeshaya. Right, again, he's bringing a source from Shmais and Torah. Zukriya Shema Tefillah, Uberach Estachmecha V'Sveimecha, and Akash Baruch Hu will go ahead, what? And he'll give you a bracha in your bread and your water. Supasa Melech V'Kita and Shamayim. This refers to bread with salt and a pitcher of water. Mikam Ve'elech V'Asiroisi Machla Mikebecha. And as a result of eating salt and water and bread, God's Baruch will remove sickness from among you. So I have a nice marmakum over here. This is a nice Ben Yehoyada. Guys, listen to this very nice Ben Yehoyada. So we have melach, lechem, right? We have the word melach, lechem. So take the word machla, mem ches lamed hey, jumble it up. It spells halechem, right? Machla. Halechem. It also spells hamelach, and it also says lachma. So machla is halechem, hamelach, and lachma. So therefore, you have an allusion to what? To pas melech. Very geschmack. Titania, machla, when it says machla, sickness, umara. This refers to sickness of the gallbladder. Why is it called machla? There's what? There's 83 diseases associated with it. And machla b'gematria, guys, is 83. The kulon and all of these diseases that are associated with what? With the gallbladder, pas b'melech shachris, v'kita shalmayim mevatlin. Go ahead and eat pas melech. No, people don't eat pas anymore, right? They don't eat pas anymore for breakfast. They worry about their weight. But it seems, again, there's a makar in the Torah, it seems to be a good thing. Probably because they didn't gorge themselves the rest of the day. Again, people used to eat a lot less. They eat a lot less. Again, if all you had was bread, but we eat a lot more. But it seems to be an Indian. If you're going to go ahead and not eat a lot, better eat breakfast, right? Better so much for intermittent fasting, right? That's a very popular thing. Okay. Anyway, yesterday we did away with sticks and stones can break my bones, and today we're doing away with intermittent fasting. Just wait, it gets more interesting. Says the Gemara Vayta, a sixth conversation. Amalei Rava l'Rabba Ramari. Moham milsadam Rabbanon. Chavroch karya chamara. If your friend calls you a chamor, ukafel legaboch mush. Go ahead and put the saddle on your back. What in the world? What does this mean? Look at Rashi. Rashi says, uchba legabach mush kloimar tul oikif shel mechamor. Take the saddle of the donkey. Asirohu elecha, bring it to you. Al gabech, and put it on your back. Kloimar. What does kloimar mean? Go ahead and be makabel what he says. Go ahead, Ron, and be mukabel what he says. Okay, where's the source for this? So Amalei, Dechsiv Ayomer Hagar Shifcha Sarai. So what does the Malach call? Now Hagar is a free woman. She's running away. What does the Malach call her? Shifcha Sarah. What does Hagar say? Vatoimer mifnei Sarah givirti anebarachas. I'm running away from Sarah, my giveret. So here Rava doesn't go ahead and do one upsmim. I think because he's bringing a source from the Torah, guys. Where's the source from? From the Torah. So I think it's Geshmak Pshat. You find Rava going ahead and one upping Rabbi Marmari when Rabbi Marmari is not being a source from the Torah. Here he's being from a Torah a source, so he doesn't say anything to him. So what's the raya from here? The raya from here, she goes, Anochi, where am I running away from? Sarah Giveret. She calls her a Giveret. You're calling me a Shifcha, and I'm admitting I'm a Shifcha. Why? Because I have a Giveret, I have a mistress. Amalei Rabba Rabba Mamari. Menal Milsa Dama Inshi. Milsa Gina'a the Ispech Kadim Amra. If you have a fault, right, before a person has a chance to go ahead and tell it to you, you should go ahead and tell it to him. Where do you see that from? Amalei, Dichsiv Vayomer Eved Avram Anochi. He said, what does he say? He didn't say, they didn't know what he was, Eliezer. Eliezer tells them, Eved Avram Anochi. So he says who he is. Again, a pasuk in the Torah. Amalei Rav Mamari. No, the Inshi that people say, it says, Shvol v'ozl ba'azah, the duck or the goose, it goes with its head down, but it always looks afar, meaning it looks towards the future. So the source over here is not. This ends my Torah, of course. It's not a source from the Torah. It's a source from the Navi. There's a person named Naval, and he owed David. David and his men had shepherded his sheep, and he owed him wages. David sent to pay up, and he refused. And he I don't know, he didn't say something nice about David. He was married by Malchus. David wasn't the king yet. Shaul was still alive. David's coming with his men to kill him. And Abigail Abigail Ashes Novel Carmeli. She finds out and she goes ahead and loads up donkeys with tons of food and tons of stuff, brings it to David. When Noah finds out he has a stroke, he dies a few days later. Anyway, Kolapachas. She stopped David because David was going to kill him. And she said, David, you're not the king yet. Your coin hasn't been minted. So even though you're the king as being anointed, but in practice, you're not practicing yet. So she saved David. And David is masking and tells her, you did me a big chesed. And she says the following to David. She says, Tichsiv, Beheitiv Hashem la'adoni, Hashem what? He did well. He'll do well with you. And remember your maidservant. What is she doing? Her eyes are on fire. She knows that Noble's going to die. And remember me, marry me. It said in the Navi guys, it says Abigail missing a yud because they made a pagam in her name after this incident. Why? Because she was a little forthright in engaging herself to David, telling David, guess what? Remember me. But the bottom line is, the goose looks afar. She has her eyes in the future. Amalei Rabba Bar Mari. Okay, he says to Rabbi Mamari, Shitin Tachle Matya Lekacha. You have 60 toothaches. Look, Dokal Chave Shama V'le'achal. Someone who hears someone eating and he doesn't eat, and that's going to cause him to be right in pain. So Amalei Dichsiv V'liani Avdecha U'letzadik HaKoyin U'benayo Ben Yoyada U'lishloimei Avda Loikara. It's the beginning of Malachim. That says Nasan tells David that Benayahu, not Benayahu, Adoniyahu he's going ahead and he's making his run on the Malchus. David was sick, he was dying, right? He was 70 years old, he's going to die, and Adoniyahu, feeling he was the rightful king, so he invited these people to go ahead for his coronation, and he did not call, right? He did not invite what? He did not invite Nasan. He did not what? Invite Nasan. So it means that he hadn't been invited. So I guess the tzushtel over here is that it causes pain when you don't eat. So what does he say? Amalei said, At Amit mehasam. You say from there, and again, this goes back to my thing that he's upping him. He said from the Navi, and now he's speaking from the Torah proper. Vayevieu Yitzchak ohela Sarah imoi. Vayikach es Rivka batila leisha. Vayeveha vayinachim Yitzchak achrei imoi. He was what? He was consoled after his mother. Basrei. So what do you see? So in other words, you should do what you see someone do. Like, so what happened over here is that it says by Yosef Avram vayikach isha ushma ketura. What does Avram do? Avram sees his son get married, and therefore what? Since he saw Yitzchak get married, he got married. Since you see someone else eat, you should eat. So that's the source over here. Okay, Keturah was machloikas who she was, whether it was Hagar or not Hagar, Pasha. Amalei Rava l'Rabba bar Mari, Menoha Milsadama and she people say, Chamra l'Mare, the Chamra l'Mare, the wine is owned by somebody. The wine is owned by this person, right? The wine is owned by this person, and tivusa l'shakya. And who do you market types to? To the Sarah Mashkin. To the Sarah Mashkin. In other words, what's happening is that this person owns the wine. So let's say I bring wine. Let's say I bring some, hypothetically, I own some good wine. And I go to Ari Bacon's house for a kiddush, and I go ahead and I give it to Ari Bacon. Ari Bacon serves it to Heshi and Harold and David and Benji. They say, Ari, this is such great wine. Thank you so much. Abba, bust. Abba, bust. So that's what happens. You get the owner of the wine, and who gets the person? The Sarah Mashkin. He goes ahead, what? Right? He gets it. So where do you know this from? Amalei. So Rabbi Mori told Rava, "Tichsiv esamachta es yadcha alav," and because Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, "Put your hands on Yeshua." The man Yishman called Das Yisrael that each person should go ahead and they should listen up. Uksiv Yeshua binun Malei Ruach Chachma. You know why he was Malei Chachma? He samach Moshe es yadav alav, not because of Hashem, but because of the Sarah Mashka Moshe, who put his hands on top of him. Right? Elav b'nei Yisrael. Amalei Rava l'Rabba Mamari. Minor Milsadam Yinshi Kalba b'Chafne Galole Mavle. When a dog's hungry, it'll eat galolim, it'll eat stones. It says Gemara Dechsiv Nefesh Siveya Tavos Neifes B'Nefesh Re'eva Kol Mar Masak. A person that is satiated, he'll walk on a honeycomb. But the person who's hungry, right? Then anything that's mar, kol mar, anything that's better, what is sweet. So you see that what that person's going to go ahead and eat something that even though what. Okay. Amalei Rava l'Rabba Mari, Minoah Milsadami and she, Mitayel v'Ozel Dikla Bisha Gabe Kina de Sharve. A beard palm tree goes to a barren tree. The beard goes to the barren, to the srak. Amalei, what do you see this from? Basically, beard people go to other beard people. It says, and Shari ben Nevi'im, it's repeated in the Navi, Mashulish B'Ksuvim, and it's hat-tricked into what? In the Ksuvim. With Tanam B'Maslisan, it's even learned what? The fourth time in the Torah Sheval Peh. Where do you see it? Kasa b'Torah, Dechsiv Vayelech Esav El Yishmael. So Esav went to Yishmael. Shina ben Nevi'im, Dechsiv by Yiftach, by Yislachtu El Yiftach Hanoshim Reikim, V'Yetze Imoi. So you see that attracted to Yiftach with lowlights. U'mishulish b'Ksuvim, Dechsiv Kol Oif Lemina Yishkoin U'Bnei Adam Doim Eloi. Birds of a feather flock together, and people similar to them. Taisus brings that guys that this is not found in the Ksuvim, it's in the Sefer Ben Sira, perhaps. Tam Masnisan, Kol Mechuba L'Tamei Tamei. Anything that's connected to Tamei is Tamei. Kol Mechuba L'Tar is Tar. So you see that beard goes to beard. The Tam B'Braisa, right? Nevertheless, Oimer Loy Lechinam Holach Zarzer Eitz Eloi Reiv. The Zarzer, which is called in the art school Taish starling, it goes to the raven. So I guess one bad thing goes to another bad thing. One bad thing goes to another bad thing. Amalei Rava l'Rabba bar Mari, Manan Milsa Yami Inshi Koris Chavrach Anach. If you call out to your friend, right, for something bad he's doing and he doesn't answer you, Rimei Guda Rabba Shadei. Go ahead, lift up a wall and throw it at him, some obscure thing. Amalei. Yanti, where do you know this from? Yanti hartach loitaharta bitumasech loitatar oid. I try to go ahead and be matar you, but you refuse. So you'll never be what? You'll never be what? You'll never become tahor. Okay, well, I guess we'll stop over here. Let's say a kapitel Tilim.